Hey, all, GM. I'm Berto. I work at Parity. Just to give you a quick introduction, I was previously at Talisman, and I'll be your host today. If you are watching this straight as we've gone live, thanks very much for joining. Hopefully you'll be able to get some interesting thoughts and kind of different concepts out of the conversation today. The title of the session or the talk is An Interoperable Interlude, the Death of Maximalism. So let's kind of unpack what that means and have a bit of a chat about it. We have three different speakers and teams with us today. So we have Zixi from Interlay, Nate from Moonbeam, and Liam from Pendulum. And we've kind of picked these teams because they're all working with different ecosystems outside of Polkadot. And I think each have kind of a different interesting perspective of kind of what's going on. And so, yeah, I guess looking to dive into that a little bit further and kind of understand like what each team is doing and you know, what they've been working on. I think like personally, interoperability is super important in many different environments, and specifically when it comes to crypto. In crypto, we have so many different ecosystems that are all quite like siloed and don't talk to each other, which can cause some pretty big problems. And I think that like one of the kind of core tenets of Polkadot is to connect and bring these different ecosystems together and not have siloed information and you know, siloed users anymore. And so what I thought I'd do is just kind of do a quick around the grounds for each of the people here on the talk. And if you can just kind of give like a, you know, 1 minute kind of, I guess, overview of like who you are and like what your team is kind of focused on and what different networks or I guess, yeah, chains outside of just Polkadot that you're working with. Also, just to note, Nate can only join us for half an hour today, so please kick it off, sir.
Appreciate it. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting this together. Yeah, so I'm Nate. I work for a company called Distractive, and one of our main initiatives is supporting the Moonbeam ecosystem from a marketing and BD focus. And so my role is ecosystem lead, and so I've been with the project really since the start, and really focused on just kind of helping teams figure out the best way to deploy into the ecosystem and how to try and make things grow and as successful as possible in the Moonbeam ecosystem, but also in the Polkadot ecosystem. And so both teams here today, I work with both of them, and we're trying to figure out different ways we can collaborate. Moonbeam, at its like core is really focused on kind of being the EVM for the Polkadot ecosystem. And so the EVM gives developers in the crypto space kind of a platform that they're kind of used to working with, that Solidity devs can kind of come, take, and utilize very quickly and easily. And you can kind of now have a foot in the Polkadot ecosystem. We've continued to see a growth and kind of a change in just where folks are thinking about, but from a deployment standpoint, but we continue to see Polkadot as one of those real ecosystems that folks want to make sure that they have kind of a presence in. And so we've got a bunch of native teams that are really Moonbeam focused. We've got teams that are pure, what I'd call multi-chain, that just kind of copy paste across ecosystems. But we're starting to see a trend towards, and I'm glad that you're doing this on interoperability. We're seeing a trend towards teams that are doing things in what we call like natively multi-chain. And so like from the start, they're going cross-chain, and they're building their platform in a way that they can do things a little more seamlessly, whether it's governance, whether it's upgrades, whether it's just tokenomics, things like that can go cross-chain. So we are connected to pretty much every ecosystem out there. We work with folks like Wormhole, Axelar, Layer Zero, Hyperlane, a lot of these new general message passing providers. We collab with all of them. They are connected to Moonbeam. But then internally, I think with the Polkadot ecosystem, I think there are 10 or 12 XEM channels currently open on Moonbeam. On Moon River, there's even more. And so we try and make sure that we collab with everybody and anybody possible, so that developers have the the best place that they can kind of touch any ecosystem they want, and they can leverage best of breed from the parachains internally to Polkadot. So
nice, thanks for that. And maybe Zixi, you next.
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me? Great. Yeah, thanks. My name is Zixi. I have been working with Interlay for over a year now. Interlay started off by building a decentralized bridge. Our founder, Alexei and Dominic, started this idea of how can we bring Bitcoin to other ecosystem and make Bitcoin programmable for people. So not just Bitcoin on Bitcoin chain, but allowing DeFi potentials for Bitcoin. And so last year we launched a decentralized bridge, actually two decentralized bridges, one Kintsugi on Kusama and one Interlay on Polkadot. And this year we're moving towards launching DeFi hubs on both of these bridges. So not just having the bridge, but also providing some kind of product where people can earn yields with Bitcoin. And this is where interoperability come into play, because with being part of the great thing about being in Polkadot ecosystem is we can leverage tools like XEM channels and also the community, so that people can actually easily use our products and also easily bridge our assets into other chains and use them in different ways, which I'm happy to get into details later on in the discussion. Yeah, very happy to be here today with you guys. And I will pass the ball to Liam from Pendulum.
Thanks very much, Jishi. And yeah, thanks everyone. Very happy to be here. Appreciate everyone hosting this. So yeah, my name is Liam. And on a personal level, I'm a crypto degen. On a professional level, I'm an interim marketing lead at Pendulum. And it's nice those things can align sometimes. So yeah, we are having great fun building on Polkadot. We now have our Amplitude chain on Kusama and our Pendulum chain live on Polkadot. And just a quick, in a nutshell, a one-sentence introduction of Pendulum, I would say we are trying to build the blockchain infrastructure for traditional finance and Forex. That's us in a nutshell. And in order to do that, like Berto mentioned at the beginning, we have to connect with traditional finance builders, and we have to connect with other ecosystems. And one ecosystem we are currently connected with is Stellar. And I can talk more about this later. But yeah, we have our live bridge on Amplitude, Spacewalk Bridge, that connects Amplitude and Stellar. And so the stable coins on Stellar can move to and from Polkadot, which is very exciting. And yeah, we can talk more about that later. Yeah, so that's a quick intro to Pendulum, and thanks for having me.
Nice, thanks. And maybe if you can just go on mute when you're not talking, just to avoid any echo. Yeah, I mean, I guess the first kind of question I was thinking around was like diversifying the Polkadot ecosystem, and would be kind of interested to hear. And again, maybe Nate, from you, just because you're leaving shortly, I'll get all the questions in on you first, but interested to kind of hear what you kind of think about like diversity in the Polkadot ecosystem, and if you think like as the ecosystem becomes more diverse, there will be more chance for interoperability between these different teams and different chains, like focused on different things. And if you think that like, we can all, even though we're doing like more teams are doing diverse products or diverse use cases, if they'll still kind of share like similar goals in mind. It's a bit of a long-winded question, but
yeah. No, I mean, I think that we're continuing to see that like crypto itself is evolving. I think that there's product market fit that's been found in like pockets, but I think we've even seen some of the things that were popular 2 years ago maybe don't work any longer, and so that's kind of evolved. And so like the play to earn stuff was super hot 2 years ago, and I think we've seen some of the tokenomics around that just doesn't really hold up. And so I think games that are coming to market now are going to look much different than 2-3 years ago. And so I think diversity is key, and I think there's going to be some similar like aspects where I tend to believe that there needs to be almost like a like DeFi at this point. I think has found its product market fit in crypto, and that's kind of like a base layer that everything kind of builds on top of. And so, you know, whether it's games, whether it's NFT platforms, all of that kind of plugs into the DeFi, you know, kind of guts, if you will. Because I think that you need liquidity, you need to be able to swap, you need all of those things touch DeFi. And so one thing that I will be interested in is, and I think the Pendulum guys are working on it, is kind of like, how does TradFi kind of plug into that in a way that some of the might unlock traditional liquidity in a way that maybe couldn't have been unlocked in the past, and what kind of like guidelines need to be there, what kind of whitelisting, things along those lines. So I think it's a long-winded way to answer a long-winded question. Is like, yes, I think that interoperability and diversity is going to continue to play a role in Polkadot, because I think it's necessary. It's discovery. You have to kind of see what else can be built. But I tend to believe that all of it gives us new opportunities to figure out new collab ideas in ways that, you know, we can all kind of plug together, and that, you know, Interlay is bringing one piece and Pendulum's bringing another piece and Moonbeam's bringing another. Now, what kind of applications can kind of be built on top of that and leverage all of us that are kind of providing a different, you know, a different piece of the puzzle, if you will.
Okay, nice, thanks. Maybe Liam next. Like, do you have any I guess kind of additional thoughts on that, or I'd be interested to kind of hear your position, especially as you, like, as Nate mentioned, you were kind of touching other markets that these, you know, like Interlay and Moonbeam may not be.
Yeah, I think the first thing to mention is, I wasn't part of the founding team, but the founding team had this vision, and then they decided to build on Polkadot. So we were like, okay, we want to get stablecoin liquidity, create a stablecoin hub that is optimized for traditional forex, for traditional finance. Where should we do it? And we ended up in Polkadot because of Polkadot's interoperability. Yeah, so that's a great thing about Polkadot. It brought us in because of how interoperable it is philosophically and technically. Yeah, and so now we're building here, and yeah, and our first step is the spacewalk bridge to get the stable coins on Stellar. So Stellar have worked very hard over many years, proper OGs in the space, Stellar, and they've got loads of stable coins from across the world with banking integrations, and so they have great fiat stablecoin liquidity on Stellar. For example, the Brazilian real, the Mexican pesos, the Tanzanian shilling, etc. And with Polkadot, we can use the spacewalk bridge, bring that to Polkadot, and have those stablecoins interact with DeFi, interact with AMMs, which I'll talk about later. We're building one, and interact with all the functionality of DeFi, which is super exciting. So yeah, that was our journey. There's lots of liquidity for, like, you know, USDC, the major stable coins, but particularly for the stable coins from more developing countries, more exotic stable coins, there's less opportunity right now. And so, yeah, we see an opportunity to provide value there.
Okay, nice, thanks. Zixi, I was wondering if you could kind of tell us or what your thoughts are on kind of like how the ecosystem is collaborating, and maybe like what the current state of collaboration is, and maybe some of the teams that Interlay is like frequently working with, would kind of.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So I want to first like agree on what Liam was mentioning about the advantage with Polkadot, how, you know, we can be here, be connected, and also be ourselves. Like each parachain is very independent in functionality, and this is one thing about diversity is if every parachain is doing the same thing, if every parachain shares the same tokenomic, then it wouldn't be diverse, and we wouldn't have alternative. I will give some examples, but before that, I want to just mention how I see diversity in blockchain is a lot of time crypto and blockchain, people don't see past, the mass majority of retail users don't see past speculations. Like this is the meaning, the use case for crypto is just speculations. But the lucky thing that I feel in Polkadot ecosystem is that there's a lot of projects that do more than just about trading. Like we ourselves, we are a DeFi platform, so of course we are all about finance, decentralized finance. But I am so happy to see projects that provide, for example, identity service, and also like different ways, like how Pendulum can connect traditional finance through fiat money to crypto money. There are so many ways that you can do it and actually facilitate users to live a lifestyle that's decentralized, because you cannot be decentralized. You cannot use these servers if you don't agree with the value. If you don't understand the value of decentralization, why we're using cryptocurrency, then people are not going to use it, and we need those tools. And like for Interlay, some of the examples that I can bring towards how we facilitate interoperability is, for example, how Interlay work, how we bridge Bitcoin into our chain is that we have a vault system. And a vault is basically, it can be anybody who have the technical capacity to run a client on their laptop or on their computer. And they have to provide collateral to secure the Bitcoin that comes into the bridge. And we're introducing liquid staking products from like Bifrost, Akala, from other ecosystem, from other parachains to become vault collaterals on our bridges. And also we're introducing our own asset to like Hydra DX, Omnipool, to make BTC liquidity more accessible for users of other parachains. And in other ways, like more ideas levels of like, if we talk about hackathons, where we're not talking about established products, where we try to make joint challenges together with other parachains to encourage developer communities to look at the possibility for interoperability. So instead of looking at one parachain, I want to build something for this one parachain, we try to create scenarios where developers can think about things in this way, where, okay, how can I connect these two parachains together? Like we're pushing out a joint parachain challenge with Ayuna, which is a gaming platform, and we're saying, okay, can we collect some game designs from developers and see what do they see the possibility of bringing Bitcoin IBTC to Ayuna? Like what do they see the role of Bitcoin playing in a gaming platform? So these are some of the examples that I have off my head regarding long answer again, but yeah.
No, that's cool. That's really interesting. I mean, it sounds like Interlay is working with a lot of teams, right? Which we love to see. So that's awesome. Maybe Nate, would be interesting to hear. Like you kind of mentioned a few teams that are outside of the Polkadot ecosystem, like XLR and Wormhole and others. It would be interesting to kind of hear around some of those kind of teams that other people might not be aware of if they're just focused on Polkadot. That kind of Moonbeam or just Disruptive is working with?
Yeah, I mean, so from a Moonbeam perspective, I've kind of taken this approach of like internally to Polkadot. I think we can like service a lot of different needs using XCM, and so that's amazing. But I think we're still seeing like some of that's a little early, right? So even opening up like an HR, it's called an HRMP channel between a parachain that enables kind of this trustless talking, bridging and talking. It's still early. Teams are still kind of getting there, and we're starting to expand that set, and we're seeing that kind of take off. But I think we realized that it was really like early last year that Moonbeam was in a kind of unique position that it wasn't just XCM that could unlock kind of this interoperability piece from a Moonbeam perspective. Because of the EVM, it enabled us to connect to these general message passing providers. So traditional bridging was really just focused on I lock an asset, I send it, I unlock an asset, and you can kind of just have these bridged tokens. But some of these, what I'd call like V2 bridges, were really focused on this general message passing piece, which enables like a chain to talk to a chain without having to like send a token. And so it's just messaging. And so we kind of started thinking about that and getting open, like our eyes opened up to some of this early last year, and realized that because of the EVM, these general message passing providers could land on Moonbeam. And so now you've got kind of this strategy of being able to open up externally to whether it's Ethereum or BNB or AVAX or whatever, any like other EVM compatible chain. But then internally, we've got XCM to connect. And so folks like Wormhole, folks like Axelar, Layer Zero, a lot of their messaging, if you look at it, is really focused on kind of the next evolution of how applications will be built. And so we try and make it so that teams who are developing on Moonbeam not only can use XCM to get to all the awesome use cases internally to Polkadot, but they can determine what bridging or GMP provider they want to work with. Maybe they work with two, so that they can actually access liquidity, assets, users, things like that outside of Polkadot as well, in kind of a seamless and frictionless way. So that's really how we kind of see the world from a Moonbeam perspective. Is internally XCM can do everything. Externally, it's really enabling these GMP providers to kind of flourish too.
Okay, nice. Thanks for that. And Liam, like, the Pendulum team is doing a lot of work with Stellar and different projects in the Stellar ecosystem. Would kind of love to hear about how you've been working with them, and if there's been any, I guess, any interesting kind of lessons that you've learned from, working with another ecosystem and working with other teams there.
Yeah. So I suppose the main thing we do with Stellar is we have the Spacewalk bridge, which bridges over stable coins from Stellar. So currently we have USDC, Tanzanian shilling, the Brazilian real, and the Mexican pesos, I think. And so they're going to Amplitude, and that bridge exists. And so once we work with the stable coins themselves as partners, and the tech is there for the stable coins to move to and from, and it's gone smoothly, but things take time. Like from a technical perspective, building the interoperability with another chain, there was a lot of new things to do. The tech is gigabrain, it's above my head, but I could see it from an overall perspective that there was we were building new things because it was the first time Stellar was connected to Polkadot, so there was some challenges that were overcome, which was great. And also XLM, Stellar's native token, that's also available to go across the bridge at the moment, and in the future we want as many as possible. And then we're looking forward to communicating with other blockchains. I know we're always in conversation with Moonbeam about figuring out how to get all the beautiful stable coins from Ethereum over to Dotsama. Those conversations have been happening for a while, so that's very exciting.
Okay, nice. And maybe in the same topic, to come back to you, Zixi, I know that you and the team work with a lot of companies and I guess like people that are working and building with Bitcoin and leveraging Bitcoin and in totally different situations in Polkadot. Would also be really interested to kind of hear if there's any any interesting kind of facts or kind of takeaways from working with maybe a Bitcoin minded crowd.
Wow. This is a great question, because definitely the ecosystem outside of Polkadot that we interact with the most are people who either are 100% in Bitcoin, or other people who are similar to us who want to look for a possibility. So there are two kind of Bitcoin holders, I would say. Like, one is like a Bitcoin holder who is only about Bitcoin, and I understand the point where, because Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and there is people who believe that this is just like how there are people who believe that US dollar is the dominant currency, which it is, but there is also other people who see that the possibility of interoperability for Bitcoin, and I think we kind of stand in between. So for people who see Bitcoin as only a store of value, or only a mechanism to, kind of like a house, like see Bitcoin only as a property where you store your value basically, then we tend to, how we approach it is we interview them, we try to establish communication with them and understand, okay, why are you thinking this way, and what is the pain point? What tools do you use to store your Bitcoin? What tools do you use? Do you ever think about earning yields on Bitcoin? And if you're not doing that, what is stopping you? So for people who is maximalist for Bitcoin, I think there's a lot for us to learn, because those are the market that is hard to tap, but those are the markets that actually might need Bitcoin layers, because at the end, Bitcoin might have to scale in layers. Like Bitcoin is expensive, it's slow itself, the blockchain itself, and there are a lot of other things happening in different spaces, and there are things that you have to do in layer. And can you imagine, like in 100 years, 200 years from now, and everything is happening on the core layer? I don't think that's the only solution. There's probably going to be layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5. Maybe it will be very rare for people to directly interact with the core layer, because there are going to be tools that is so advanced. And these are the things that we have to look into. So instead of not establishing conversation, we actually actively go to people with different point of views and companies that build the same or competing products, and we try to learn. And this is one thing that about how we approach this is in a environment that is not huge on interoperability, like Bitcoin ecosystem. We really try to establish conversation, and we put research as the method to deal with it.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be potentially challenging at times. For sure.
It could be challenging, but it could also be really fun, because it's
Totally.
I think this is because it's this is exactly why we exist, because it's not an easy task. Like that's why we're doing it, and we're looking at like how Bitcoin economy, in order to establish like a Bitcoin economy where people use Bitcoin, people earn with Bitcoin and store with Bitcoin, there's going to be a lot of sectors that we have to look at. So we talk to miners, we talk to retail users, institutions, everything, and we find out, okay, what is the missing link here, and what is our step next, and what are the tools that we can use, and also what are the connections that we can use, for like the connections including all of the friends in Polkadot ecosystem and outside of Polkadot ecosystem, and we make it happen.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. Liam, I wanted to kind of ask a question. You mentioned around when you got the bridge live, and there was some how to say, some maybe not difficulties is the right word, but there was some work to kind of get it live. I'd be also kind of interested in like the human element of like inter-team collaboration to kind of get such a massive milestone across the mark. Like if you could talk to that, I think it would be kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, I think we have an amazing tech team, bunch of giga brains. I love them, led by Dr. Torsten. But yeah, they with every challenge, they always have a very long-term perspective, and that is whenever you build, I would say to new builders who are thinking about building on Polkadot, you need a long-term vision and be prepared to work at it. The tech is great, but because the tech is so great, things take longer, right? Like me and my degen friends, we can go on Pulse Chain or BNB chain and spin up pay some people on Fiverr to spin up an AMM or something, and it'll be easy and it'll be user friendly, but it won't be amazing technology. Whereas when you build on Polkadot, things take longer and there are more technical challenges, but the end result is more decentralized and much better tech. So yeah, the team had a great attitude and got a lot of support from other parachains. There was a lot of cross parachain interaction, and support. And that was something I've noticed at events in person and from seeing the team on Slack. Like it is a very supportive community, .Sama community, with Parity being an amazing support, and then with all the parachains helping each other. So that's really good. Yeah, and that's one of the great things about building on Polkadot. My wife is Chinese, and she throws out Chinese wisdom at me sometimes. And one of the lines she says is, "Dig the well before you are thirsty." Where you chomo, and that's kind of the Polkadot ethos is build the great tech, build your house upon the rocks. It takes a bit longer, but long term, it's worth it.
Nice, I love it. That's so good.
I'm so impressed with your Chinese pronunciation, by the way. I just have to say that was perfect.
Thanks a lot. My wife is Chinese. She can't speak English, so I have to speak it.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
Super
Nice.
impressive. I can barely speak English. It's terrible. It's the only language I speak, and I can barely speak English. I don't do that well either. So I'm always impressed by folks who speak a bunch of languages.
Yeah, totally. And Nate, I was wondering if you could kind of tell us around your thoughts around like interoperability and maximalism, which is like the topic of the conversation, and how like the more, well, if you think this is true, like the more interoperable crypto will be, like crypto in general. Do you think that kind of like general attitude that some people have, like we spoke about with Zixi, the Bitcoin crowd, like, do you think that will decrease over time, or do you think that people will kind of some people will stay kind of true to their one thing they're interested in?
Yeah. So hot take here and developing opinion. I've been kind of reformulating kind of my thoughts over the past, I don't know, like 4 months. Really, I've been thinking about this. So Bitcoin is one thing. Like Bitcoin, the maxis, I don't know if they'll ever change. I think there are just too many people who really joined, crypto early days around Bitcoin and kind of fostered more of like the, I don't know, like keep government out of money attitude, which I think there's still a lot of that there. And so that to me didn't really ever care about kind of like what else can be built on it. It was very much more just focused on like keep government out of money, and this is the way we can kind of do it. And so I think there's always going to be kind of that like click, if you will, that I don't think they give a shit about what else gets built. They just want to focus on like, and I think that's why they're so just like vehement that like Bitcoin's the only thing that matters, because it's just nothing changes. It's standard. They know where it's going. And so I don't think you're going to change that faction of folks. I think that's always going to exist. I tend to believe that in a bull market, it's really easy to have maximalism, because I think when like the layer one wars kind of started in 2019, 2020, that you saw people kind of get into these, whether it was an ICO, whether it was airdrops, whatever it was, you saw these people kind of get into these ecosystems focused on the tech, and then they made a bunch of money because prices just skyrocketed. And so you could tell pretty quickly like who were bag holders, and they became very well aligned with like, no, this is the tech because they had the money, or they made money with it. And so ultimately, like in a bull, you can do that because everyone's making money hand over fist. New things are launching. You're getting airdrops. Like it's just euphoric, and you can just be like, I don't care about any other ecosystem. This is the one that's like made me all this money, and this is why I think it's the best. And they focus on tech, sure. But in the bear, it gets a lot harder to really have maximalism, because I think people finally are realizing that like, oh shit, crypto is really small still. Like there aren't a bajillion users out there who are doing all these very complex like DeFi strategies and things. And so I think quickly you start to realize that like, I think maximalism kind of has to die at some point, especially in the bear, because crypto's too small to be able to support it. Like you can't, crypto isn't big enough. Like I think you can have maximalism around crypto as like an entire ecosystem, but when you start fracturing that into like these smaller subsets, it just doesn't make sense. There just isn't enough users out there, or aren't enough users out there to like really sustain that. And so one of the things that I've been talking a lot to devs about is that, like, from an end user perspective, I almost think people shouldn't care what L1 they're on. It shouldn't matter. As long as the security, they're comfortable with like the security assumptions or whatever application they're using is, pretty transparent about like what chains it's connected to, where it's getting yield from, what farms it's in, and that they're pretty upfront and people can kind of say, okay, I'm comfortable being on XYZ chain with XYZ protocol. Great, then it shouldn't really matter where they kind of are. And so I've really come around to that, especially since like Prime Protocol launched on Moonbeam. They were really the first team, I think, in crypto who built this like natively interoperable protocol from the start. And so like they're on Moonbeam, their brain is on Moonbeam, but they're connected to Avalanche. I think they're on like 5 or 6 at this point. They're on the layer 2, so Optimism, Arbitrum. But they're across all these other ecosystems where, from a user's perspective, you can kind of show up on whatever chain you want and be like, ooh, I see there's like 5% yield on USDC. Great, I want to get into that. They don't even know where the transactions are happening. They don't really care. They just know that, okay, I have $500 on AVAX and I'm in this pool on Prime Protocol. That pool could be on BNB, but they never had to do anything. They just had to click get into it. And behind the scenes, it's basically just facilitating that swap, getting them where they want to be and kind of parking it. And so I just tend to believe like that's where things are going to start to trend, because crypto's too small to have like a ton of maximalism and chain maximalism, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I think Polkadot is situated really well there, because that's really always kind of been the focus of build an application that can go across all these, obviously it's XEM focused, but like go across all of these chains that provide something different, and build something that you can get identity, or you can get DeFi, you can get NFTs, you can get gaming, and kind of plug it all together. So from a user's experience, they just know that they're getting whatever game they want. They get whatever NFT they want. They get whatever APY they want. They don't really care where it is. I think that's where things are heading. And so that's what I've been talking a lot about lately with like our team, with devs, around like why I think that's where kind of the market's going to be heading in the next couple of years.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I mean, I also think like crypto is so small and niche anyway in like the world. And then we're arguing about like, oh, which small subset of crypto is the right one. It's very funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, totally agree. I think like, I also kind of think like a lot of crypto stuff in the future will become like infrastructure almost, and users will use a website and potentially might not even know it's connected to blockchain, right? Like I think we'll start to see interesting use cases like that in the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you saw in like 2019, 2020, like companies like Kodak put like, blockchain after in their stock pump like 10% or something crazy, right? I don't think we're going to see an age like that again, where crypto goes back to this like mainstream like chaos or frenzy that it was kind of in, where you just like added blockchain and it was like, oh my God, they're doing something. I think that the next run or the next kind of cycle, I think it'll be more sustainable, but I think it's going to be like, can applications obscure away the blockchain in a way that the user doesn't know, but they're actually getting the benefits of a blockchain in the background? And so, maybe that's decentralized identity, maybe that's higher APYs, maybe that's, digital collectibles that, actually do something for them in the real world. But at the same time, the user doesn't like, it's hard enough being like, Liam mentioned he's a degen at heart, and like I am to some extent, but like I've been in crypto for 4 years. It's still like hard for me to think about, okay, now I got to move over to this chain and I got to do this. And I don't understand this strategy. I should go talk to, it's like, just give me something that I want to like do. If I'm looking for 8% APY on like stable coins or something, great. Just give me that. I don't care where, like how it's happening. I just know that I can get into it. And so I tend to believe like the most successful, like next wave of apps are going to be the ones that really like obscure away blockchain, give a user what they're there for, and make it really easy to work with, versus kind of this like the hype narrative of earlier years where it was like, oh, crypto is going to change everything. We'll see.
Yeah, makes sense. And Liam, I'd be really also kind of interested to hear about like the like with the bridge to Stellar, how like when you've been talking with teams on like the Stellar ecosystem, like do you think that they are starting potentially to kind of like open their minds to ecosystems outside of just Stellar, or maybe not? Would be interested to kind of hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think so. I think they are they're open, so that they have stable coins and they want the stable coins to be used. And so yeah, it takes time. Like it's at the beginning, it's conceptual, but conceptually they're very on board with, oh, okay, if we can have a use case over on Polkadot, that sounds great. So yeah, they're conceptually very open to it, and now it's just about building everything and making it reality. Yep, and that's where our Nabla, which is a Forex optimized AMM, comes in, because a great team led by Aaron and Andy, AA team, they're building a Forex optimized Amber on Pendulum, which will go live in a couple of months. And it's single-sided liquidity. It's it's optimized fully for stable coins, and there's no impermanent loss. So very exciting, some gigabrain stuff. So that will be the place on Pendulum where all these stablecoins from Stellar and from other ecosystems can come, and there's liquidity pools, and then traditional finance and dApps can build on top of that. So yeah, that's exciting, and that's the building blocks to make it all happen.
Okay, nice. I guess, Nate, I also know that you are very close to run, so I'll ask you this and then and kind of go around back the other way. I would be kind of interested to hear what you think like Polkadot could do like more to disrupt maximalism and kind of like make crypto even more interoperable. Like if you had any interesting thoughts or ideas around that.
I mean, I think the team at Parity are doing a great job. I think that, in past years, maybe there were some missteps and misalignment that kind of set things back a little ways. But I think that the team that's there now is doing a really good job being, pretty communicative with the parachains of where things are, when they're coming. Everybody wants them sooner, but at the same time, those were things that, maybe should have been worked out 2 years ago or something along those lines. So I think that once a lot of the integrations are there, which are still going to take some time, I think that things will start to get even better and even easier in the Polkadot ecosystem. And so like examples are USDC, when that can natively be minted, great. That opens up kind of a box. When there's more custody providers that are able to support substrate, that's another huge box. And so these are just kind of things that I think have they maybe were overlooked for a little while and are starting to kind of just be brought to the forefront, that like these are really needed. And so we're looking to support that as best as we can. We're looking to provide any kind of tech support, any kind of integration support. We want to do that. And so, but I think once more of those tools are integrated, then you can start looking at OAuth sign-in providers and things along those lines that can start to drive more just of a retail focus and obscure away the need for a wallet. I do think the team at Talisman are doing an amazing job, and so that is great. But how do we make it even easier if folks want more of a custodial solution? Great, who can provide that? How can you make that easier? So it's really like I think that it all takes a lot of time, and I think Liam mentioned it. It takes a lot longer than I think folks maybe anticipate, and so it's been like a long journey to get here. But I do think that the tech and like the base that needed to be provided around a decentralized ecosystem that can interoperate, like that's like a pretty grandiose goal that was set in like 2016 when Gav kind of came up with it. It took a long time to get there, but it's like the base is there. It's really solid. And now you're going to start to see over the next couple of years, some of the pieces get built on top of it. And so I do think that the longer vision of Polkadot will be found. It is being found. I think there are great teams building. we're not like hypey focused. And so sometimes I think folks don't see crazy Twitter updates and things like that. Like the amount of teams building cool shit in this ecosystem is there. I think it's just getting it to the masses. It takes time, and it's starting to happen. So I'm excited to see what else kind of gets built in the next couple of years. But I'm still a true believer, clearly.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think to echo your, like, one of the comments you made, I mean, I haven't looked as of today, but last time I looked, like Polkadot has the highest developer count outside of Ethereum of any blockchain eco. So like, you're right, there's a lot of people here building a lot of cool stuff. And also, like, one of the nice things that I'm kind of privy to working at Parity is seeing some of the teams come through the Substrate Builders program. And like, I can say for sure that, like, there's some pretty interesting teams that are kind of building that haven't yet announced what they're working on, or, you know, what's coming. So yeah, I think there's definitely some cool stuff kind of coming up. Zixi as well, like, same question. I'd be kind of interested to hear from you around like what Polkadot could do to kind of further disrupt maximalism, and if you have any kind of ideas around, like, even better interoperability that we already have, like, within Polkadot and outside of the Polkadot ecosystem.
Yeah. So I want to first follow up on one point that Nate made earlier, where this whole discussion with being maxis or not have a lot to do with the accessibility of technology, because it's when there's not enough, when things are hard, like when retail users needs to have a lot of technical knowledge and need to spend a lot of time invested to learn how to use one thing, it's hard for the cost for trying other things is very high, and people are naturally tend to support things that they're familiar with, just like how if you speak another language, it's more likely that you're going to travel to another country. Like, if we bring in the idea of network state here, like if we imagine blockchains as different territories or different places, like you kind of have to understand Substrate wallet to use a Substrate project. You kind of have to have Talisman or Nova or Subwallet installed already in order to do anything on Polkadot. And this is the kind of things that I think we talk about a lot. How can we, in order for all of us, all of the parachains, to be more interoperable with other ecosystem and more welcoming to other users, the education and also to retail user on how to use it, how to understand it, is, I think, a key. And this may be something that we can all do more about, like, and also governance. I think education on governance, because why do people hold DOT? Why would they need a wallet? Like, what can they do with their assets? What can they do with their DOTs? And what can they do with their parachain tokens? I think these are the kind of things that really make us unique, but at the same time is not visible enough for people, and not just retail user, but even institutions, I think, outside of the ecosystem. Like, we have to make this easier and make this more accessible. Oh, what happened?
I think Berto meant to hit unmute and his stage is bound. But
Berto just rugged us. He rugged the stream before the last question.
It left a mystery. What is the last question?
He didn't want to ask me a final question. It was too painful. He was like, forget it.
He was like, I'm out of here.
He's back.
Sorry about that. I accidentally clicked leave instead of unmute. So apologies there. Yeah, so Liam, I guess, yes, same kind of question to you around like what you think we kind of in the Polkadot space could do to, I guess, kind of level up our collaboration, and also like what things we could kind of do to make Polkadot even more interoperable than it already is.
Yeah, I think one thing is institutions. I think Polkadot is ripe for institutions, for TradFi. That's what Pendulum's working on. But as an ecosystem, it's ripe for more adoption by big players. If we look at the whole crypto ecosystem, there's a lot of chains that I'll go on, I'll do degen trading on, but they're never going to be institutionally used because they're much more speculative. Polkadot's been around a long while. You've got, like you've both mentioned, arguably the top development community, joint with Ethereum in terms of active development. And even people that don't particularly like Polkadot, they will still concede that there's a great technical community there. There's a huge amount of developers, a huge amount going on. So with that kind of reputation, that's pretty strong and very competitive compared to other chains. So I think, yeah, we can, with Gavin Wood's brand and respect in the industry and outside, institutions can feel more comfortable coming in and exploring in Polkadot. So I think we can reach out more in those directions. And yeah, the institutions and traditional finance, they're coming. They want BlackRock, probably going to get the Bitcoin ETF. They're hungry for it. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. We can move more in institutional direction. Yeah, and maybe like we were talking about before, the maximalism and the tribalism. It's difficult to get away from it because the human brain is just we're maximalist by nature, right? We're very tribal by nature. And like I was a Bitcoin maxi for 10 minutes because I was like, I don't want to think about anything else. I just want to be, Bitcoin's great. I love this. It's gone up. I feel rich. And then I got bored after 10 minutes and then bought loads of ICOs in 2017 that went down. But the point was my brain instinctively wanted to be tribalistic and maximalist because it's simple. It's clear. We want to be part of a group. So it kind of, I understand it. But yeah, obviously, I totally agree with what everyone said so far. Like I think in 5-10 years, we'll be using all these different blockchains, all these different pieces of infrastructure without knowing which chain it is. So a lot of these railroads will be invisible. So maximalism will laugh at it. But it exists. So maybe even some debates with other communities. I know Cosmos go on Bankless sometimes, and there's a rivalry there, but they go on, they have this open discussions, and it's very interesting. I'm not sure what this means, Nate, but it means there's some reference to something.
They sponsored them. They greased the skids.
Oh,
they made a little payment to be listened to. But I agreed. Sorry.
But yeah, stuff like that, and because with when Cosmos go on Bankless, for example, and Ethereum, if the tribalism becomes their friend then, because there's a bit of tribalism, people want to watch them kind of debating and arguing, and that gets views. So maybe leaning into the maximalism a bit to debate or to communicate with other blockchains is an idea. I love a bit of drama, I love a bit of debate, so that comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's some interesting points from me. Do you think that like we should be spending like potentially more effort like working with other ecosystems, like even more so than we're doing now?
I'd be for it for sure. Yeah, and if we want to lean into tribalism to have a debate with them, that works for me because it helps get attention. From a marketing perspective, it's good for attention, good for drama, good for views. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's all we have for today. So thanks very much to everyone that tuned in and listened. And sorry about my early exit previously. Not very non-intentional. Yeah, hopefully that was like a super interesting listen and kind of gave you some different aspects and different teams and stuff to kind of go and research and check out. Again, just for if you've just recently joined, we have Zixi from Interlude, Nate from Disruptive or Moon, like working in the Moonbeam ecosystem, and Liam from Pendulum. And I was hoping, Liam, you could kind of see us out with another one of your, I guess maybe a proverb or kind of a bit of wisdom. If you could think of anything, obviously you have to say it in say it in Chinese and then the translation, but if there's anything you think that might be kind of suitable to the theme, would love to hear that.
Oh, on the spot now, Berto. You should have pinged me yesterday. I could have asked the wife and got the perfect Chinese proverb. Let me think about this. Maybe something to do with long-term building. Well, in Chinese GC, they say man man lai. Slow and steady wins the race. Let's go with that.
Nice. Very good. Cool. Thanks all again for listening. Hopefully again, that was super interesting. Thanks all for joining, Liam, Nate, and Zixi. Until next time. And if also, final plug, if you are not coming to Polkadot Decoded in Copenhagen in 1 week and a day, check out the Polkadot Decoded website. Would love to see you there. I think I will be there, and I think some others from the Pendulum and Interlay and Moonbeam Disruptive team will be there as well. So yeah, we'd love to make some connections and see you there if possible. Thanks all.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Take it easy.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.